Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today I'm answering your questions. So let's get right into it and see how bad or good your questions are. How would you do a long distance relationship? Asking for a friend. The friend is me. Okay. So my position on long distance relationships has changed over the years. Initially, when I was growing up, I thought there was no way you could make a long distance relationship work. It was pointless. Cut the cord, find somebody local, find somebody close to you. Trying to make like a long distance relationship work can be very challenging. And so back then I thought there's no way. I think it's also important to understand, like, what do you mean when you mean long distance relationship? Like, some people have like a very skewed version of what long distance is. For me, anything under like 2 hours of travel, I don't think that's a long distance relationship. Like, if you can drive to someone in 2 hours, I don't think that's long distance. That's just me. I travel the world. Like, I'm constantly on the go. So if I don't have to take like an 8-hour flight to you, it's not long distance. Like, if you're an hour away, if you're an hour and a half away, if you live on the other side of the city, I don't think that's long distance, but you might. And what I've always said in long distance is you can absolutely make a long distance relationship work, but you have to have agreed with your partner that at some point you won't be long distance anymore. I think if you are dating for a while and then one of you has to go away for school or something, I think that's absolutely fine, as long as you have a plan to at some point live together. Like, what it could be 5 years down the road when your partner has done his degree, but you have to make a plan. You have to communicate and say, okay, after you're done school, after you're done this job, after you're done this contract or whatever's going on, we're going to live together. And if your partner is kind of unsure about this or is like, well, I don't know, maybe it's time to consider getting out of that relationship. But I think as long as you have a plan to live with each other and you make time during the week to spend time with each other, whether it's FaceTime or you write letters or whatever it might be, I think it's absolutely possible. So yay to long distance, make it work, communicate, you'll be fine. How do you remain positive when everything seems so dark? Okay, I think this is like a really important question, especially this year. This year has felt really tragic and difficult, and the politics and the economy and civil rights and all of this stuff seems to be changing very, very fast. How I stay positive is partly I don't read a whole lot of news. I've done videos on this, but I honestly don't think it's your responsibility to check the news. I think you should vote. I think you should have your say. I think you should protest the things you want to protest. I think you should do everything that you should do to try and make the world a better place. But that doesn't mean you have to read about the absolute tragedies going around across the world. Be mindful of them, understand that they're happening every single day, but at the end of the day, you are going to be useless to the world if you just feel as though you have no power, you have no agency. And so part of it is I just don't fixate on it. The other part is I also have, my degree has a minor in history. And so I understand that these things go in cycles and, we go through hard times, and then hopefully after the hard times, there will be good times. So it's just kind of understanding that you've got to go with the flow and you cannot let yourself get dragged down on one or two negative things going on, because like my dad likes to say, this too shall pass. So don't try and get bogged down in the negatives and focus on the positives. Focus what you can do today. Focus on who you were yesterday and improving that person. And just, don't let it get you down, because there's always going to be something. So you've got to learn to toughen yourself to the difficulties of life. Thank you so much to whoever left this comment. Any advice on how to stand your ground to people? It is so hard to not be a pushover. It is so difficult to feel as though you have little power in a situation or you cannot say no. And as a people pleaser, I totally get this. I totally get that it's really, really difficult and it's so hard. But eventually you just get to a point where you won't be pushed anymore. And, you know, you really have to think quite a lot about, you know, what you want to say. And I think a lot of us think that we're going to say no to somebody and then they're never going to talk to us again. They'll be so offended. They'll run away and we'll lose a friend or a partner or a family member. But you have to remember that these people are in your life for more than just your willingness to say yes. You know, you're funny, you're charming, you're good to be around. And just saying no when you really don't want to do something is not grounds for someone to remove you from their life. So just don't be as fearful about saying no. You do not have to please everybody, and actually pleasing everybody can make people just as annoyed with you as not. So you're not, by saying yes to things you don't want to do, you're not necessarily preventing them from hating you, but you're just pushing it down the line. You know what I mean? So you have to really be your own person. And when you are given something that you don't want, you have to politely say, and do it with as much honesty and politeness as you can. But at the end of the day, you have to be firm. You have to say, I'm sorry, this is not my vibe. I'm not doing it. But yeah, it's a really hard one. When is the mustache coming back? I don't know. I wanted to try it because I've never had a mustache before, but in all honesty, I don't really like it. And I had a lot of people say that they thought it was weird and I looked interesting and different, and not necessarily in a complimentary way. So for now, no mustache, clean. I look like I'm 17. I'm not, but that's fine. So yeah, I don't know when the mustache will come back. What is one country that you want to visit the most, whether for tourism or just cause? I would really like to go to Japan. I think Japan is so different from my culture and the way I grew up and the history and everything, the food, the people, scenery, technology. And so I'd really like to visit Japan. So that's one for sure. But I want to visit almost every country, barring like maybe 30 countries where I'm not allowed to be, or they're not very safe. But yeah, if money was not an option, where would you live for the rest of your life? Anywhere in the world. If money was no option, no object whatsoever, I really love France. You guys know this. France is amazing. Culture, food, language, people, history, climate, everything. I really love France, and I would probably want to live there. Maybe New Zealand, something like that. Something really, really beautiful, lots of nature, bad cell service. I want that. That's what I want to live in. So France, New Zealand, if money was no object whatsoever, maybe the south of England, but it would have to be no object whatsoever, because England is very expensive. Video on weight loss. Yeah, so if you don't know, I lost a lot of weight at 17 years old. I say a lot of weight. I lost like 30 pounds of like baby fat, but it was quite transformatory and it transformed my whole life. So absolutely, I will make a video on that. It will come out soon. When did I find out I was gay? I was quite a late bloomer. I found out I was gay at 19. I thought I was asexual and I really wasn't interested in anything. And then I realized that gay people can be anything. You know, they can be farmers, cowboys, whatever they want to be, and whoever they are. And that's kind of when my brain kind of opened up the idea of like, oh, I can be anyone. And so, yeah, I found out, oh, I'm gay. So that's how that happened. Would you consider making platonic friends with people across the world? Absolutely. I have lots of friends across the world, and I have no objection to making more friends. I think you can always have more friends. So, totally. Do I have a boyfriend? I'm 15. No, I do not have a boyfriend currently. What's the funniest dating experience you've had? I've had a few funny dating experiences. My first date was very awkward. We just sat by a river and chatted, and I was so new to the whole experience of like dating, especially dating a guy. And at one point, the guy told me that he thought he was falling in love with me, and I was super awkward and didn't know what to say. And then I had to drive him home. And then another funny experience, I went on a date with a university basketball player, and I kid you not, the date was 2 hours long. We were at this rooftop bar in a big city, and he spent the entire 2 hours talking about basketball. And like, I played a little bit of basketball in junior high, but I was really bored. And he thought he was the coolest person on the planet. Maybe he is, I don't know. But it was not a great date. So that happened. Where are you living now? I spend basically half my time in Canada, half my time in France, a little bit of time in England. I'm in England right now. So I kind of split my time a little bit, but my residency is in Canada right now. Would I date someone on the autism spectrum? I'm on the autism spectrum, so absolutely. I have no hesitations about that. I don't consider that anything. Like, it's just a unique thing that makes you who you are. So absolutely. What are those prioritizing themselves and career over dating missing out on? Okay, so obviously this is a very difficult question. I think a lot of people are told that they need to focus on their career and everything like that and not worry about a relationship. I go back and forth on this. I think it's absolutely fine to focus on your career. Lord knows I've done it for a while now, but I think starting a relationship teaches you a lot about yourself, about other people, and hopefully you can build a relationship that brings you to a new chapter of your life. You know, if you want a family, if you want a partner, that does change your life quite a bit, and it is very transformatory. So I think you should kind of focus a little bit on each. If it's at all a priority for you, you know, like if you're someone who actually wants a relationship at some point, I think there's nothing wrong with, you know, going on a few dates, talking to people, trying to start something, trying to build something greater than yourself. So you don't have to fall into the trap of, oh, you just got to work until you're 30 and then everything will work out after that. No, try as much as you can. When did you come out to your people, your environment, everything? I came out at basically 21 years old. So I figured out I was gay at 19, and then I was really working through it and understanding it and growing as a person. And then, yeah, basically a week after I went to university, there was so much diversity and openness and inclusion. I called my parents a week after and said, hey, just so you're clear, if I come home from Thanksgiving or Christmas with a boyfriend, don't be surprised. And it was really easy and really nice. So I got very, very lucky with my family and everything like that. Do you have to worry about animals during fall or winter season like most farmers do? Yeah, actually, a farming question. Absolutely we do. And the biggest issues we have on the farm during the winter, not so much during the winter, but certainly during the fall, like the autumn, is migrating porcupines, skunks, coyotes, foxes, sorts of things like that. We have 2 dogs, and so making sure that the dogs are safe and the farm is good, that is actually like a real problem in the fall. Like around October, November time, these animals sort of move and migrate, and they migrate through the farm to go to their migrating beds where they bed down for the winter. So absolutely, it's a big concern, and we do have to worry about it. But we worry about animals throughout the whole year because we're on a farm. So, how does being, okay, so this question I think is, this will be the last one, but this question is worded a little bit funny. I'm not quite sure. How does being listed after by guys online affect dating and relationships? I assume what you're asking is, what is it like dating when you're like a social media person and people know a lot about your life in person and online, and how does that affect dating and relationships. I don't date a whole lot, but typically when I do, people know me. Like, the gay community is pretty small, right? And I make gay content. So typically when I start talking to someone, they have already seen my content. And I think the biggest thing is people, and I think I take this as a big compliment. People tend to say, oh, wow, you are exactly like you are online. Like, I don't seem to have like a fake persona. Or when people meet me in person after seeing my content online, they're like, man, you are the same person. Like, you really don't change much. And I think that's very flattering, because I know some creators who very much put on a persona online, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But in terms of me, I think the best policy is sort of honesty and being super open and genuine with who I am. So that typically is one of the first conversations I have when I'm dating someone. They're like, man, I thought you'd be like so different in person, but you're very similar to how you present yourself online, which is really nice. Like, I find that really good. It can make dating a little bit more interesting, because people kind of know stuff about me before I know anything about them. So the early stages of dating really involve me getting to know the person and getting to know what they like and what they do and how they view the world and all of that kind of stuff. So it does add a layer of complexity, but in general, I think it's all right. I'm sure there's people that see my profile or whatever, and they're like, oh, he does social media, he does that stuff. So they just disappear, they don't match with me. I'm sure that's a thing, but it's not really been an issue, thankfully. So yeah, that is this hand of questions. There's a whole bunch, so I think I'm going to do a part 2. So look for that in the next few days. And thank you so much for everyone who submitted questions. I hope this answered some of your interests about me, and I hope you have a beautiful day. And as always, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.